As you know, today's objective is to talk about what's changing in the boardroom. Obviously, there's an awful lot going on in the current environment. Board meetings have become, like this interview, more virtual and may stay that way. Now, you sit on a number of important international corporate boards. I wonder if you've seen any changes in how the board operates as a function of the shift to virtual interaction.
I mean, it's been a challenging year, but one I think, boards have largely risen to the challenge, partly because, in this time, we've had to make more critical decisions and do so quickly than I think we would do in a typical year. I mean, I've been involved in boards that have, had to go to governments to get bailouts, disposing of businesses at short notice, doing new listings, changing CEOs. It's been an incredibly active year for critical decisions on pretty much all of the boards that I've been involved in. And we've had to work out how to make those decisions in a quality fashion in ways that didn't involve, flying around the world and sitting in a hotel room for 2 days. So yes, we have had to work out how to do these virtually. And the one thing I'd say just straight up front, the role of the chairman in any of these kind of meetings, it just becomes critical, as we all know. Just the orchestration of engagement of everyone, of moving the conversation forward is always important, but on these virtual conversations, essential.
Well, you mentioned the lack of live interaction, lack of personal interaction. I imagine that you and all boards have ceased in personal or live meetings. There are no board dinners. There are no boondoggles, if there were ever such things. No trips with spouses to wherever the board might be meeting. I wonder if that's changed how the board interacts, whether the relationship with the chairman and the CEO has changed, and whether it's possible to still develop personal relationships among board members or with the management team, given that you don't see them in person anymore.
Well, I clearly joined the wrong boards, as I'm not aware of any boondoggles or meetings with spouses, or at least they don't invite me to those ones. For most of the boards that I'm on, where the membership has been relatively stable for a number of years, you've established trust and connectivity. You know the strengths, you know the areas for which you're going to turn to a particular board member for guidance on. And that works just as well in a virtual environment as it does in a physical one. If you want to have, a one-on-one interaction with a board member or an executive, you can do that. I mean, it obviously adds a level of formality to it, of saying, let's have a Zoom the day before. But where I'm the chair of the audit committee, I'm still going to do that with my CFO, my chief risk officer, and listen through what's on their mind, in advance, or with the audit firm, those kind of things. You absolutely are still going to have. The one board I'd say where it has been a challenge is that we brought 2 new board members onto the board during the COVID period, and I still haven't met either of them in person. And I respect their skills and experiences from what I've seen on paper, but it takes a while to, and I think it's just harder to build a relationship from scratch purely over the technology.
And I would imagine that everything being virtual would make it harder, or does it, to influence the CEO or other board members on softer issues, the kind of thing that a personal discussion would be more useful, and perhaps even an in-person discussion would be more useful.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I mean, for the big decisions where it's go, no go, yes, no, black, white, we've been able to make, doesn't matter how big the decision, make it well and in a quality fashion over the technology. For where there's gradations, where it's about perhaps timing of transitions, the need to add an additional person or an additional capability. Some of the human elements, yes, absolutely. And that's where, interactions outside the board meeting, in the board, and being there in person would definitely help. And, we're going to go back to those when we can, I'm sure.